It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Saunders. Alan, how are we doing?
Doing good, man. It's been a nice week here in Palm Beach. It did rain, but it's not great. But we're living through it. It was still like easily in the 80s today, so not going to complain too much about that.
51 here, feels like 41. We're both in different locations. You in West Palm Beach, me in my new house, a total of 10 houses down from where I was living. I lied to the people on Friday, though, Alan, because I said I'd have like my entire backdrop done and we'd be able to see it. I got 4 jerseys up with some Penguins flavor in there, by the way, as well. I'm not just a Steelers guy. But yeah, nowhere near done on this back wall here. So I know there's some people that are be disappointed. I already broke the news to somebody at DM me on Instagram saying they were very much looking forward to the show today, simply to see the new backdrop. And I already had to break that news and they were disappointed. So sorry to disappoint everybody that didn't get the heads up, but yeah, not the full setup here right now. Hopefully within the next couple of days. This is a long process, man. Like sometimes I underestimate how long things take. And Friday was definitely one of those things. So, but we're here in the new setup and very thankful for it. Thankful for everybody that got me to here, including yourself, Alan. But anyways, let's talk football. You were at the owners' meetings, which is why I said we're both in different locations than what we are normally at. And just a little something happened today. Just one piece of news. No, I'm kidding. There was probably an entire week's worth of episodes of news to come out of today. I say we start with a thing that didn't come out of anybody's mouth, whether Omar or Mike Tomlin, but with what we saw visual representation of Aaron Rodgers throwing to DK Metcalf. That's where I want to start with this whole thing before we get into Omar and Mike talking. Was put out there that they had a throwing session at UCLA. I saw somebody tweet about it. It was actually Nick Faribault was the one that put this out there first. Doesn't seem like that's something that like somebody that's broaching the idea of retirement would even be doing. What's your take on that and just this throwing session happening in general?
Aaron Rodgers can sign with the Steelers. I mean, I've been saying basically that for like 3 weeks now. I don't see any other way this goes down. Why would he, of all people, work out with DK Metcalf, who he's never played with, never had any relationship with, doesn't share an agency with, doesn't share a sponsorship with? Like, there's no connection other than they both live in LA, among with 10 million other people, and he's going to play for the Steelers. Like, come on. What are we doing here?
I mean, if he really wanted to throw with somebody that's on a different team, Devontae Adams probably out there and would have made the trip as well. Very good friend of his to have a throwing session. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've been in the same boat this entire time as well. Also, like if you look at what they're doing, I know obviously nobody's playing defense or anything like that, but just like the motions they're going through, very similar to some stuff that they would be doing under Arthur Smith and the way that AJ Brown feasted under Arthur Smith in Tennessee.
Yeah, man, A.J. Brown and DK do have a long relationship. They went to college together. I think they can do a lot of the same things. Not to say that DK Metcalf is that good of a wide receiver, but he is pretty close. I mean, I think that's actually a really strong takeaway for me from talking to Mike Tomlin and Omar this week is that they think that DK Metcalf can be one of the best receivers in the league. That like when you look at the stats from Seattle, it's like, okay, good, sure, but like not at AJ Brown level. They're talking about him like he's going to be that guy. Like he's going to be that player for them. And I think they get the sense that there's more to unlock in DK Metcalf than we've seen so far.
Okay. Well, I mean, the investment that they've put into him, obviously the capital to get him, but then the new contract, you would certainly like to think that they felt that way. All right, but that was a good transition, just depending on what – off the top of your head, I know I got the note right in front of me in terms of what Omar and Mike both said, but who do you feel like had more things to pull away from? Because we can start there. Like Omar or Mike, which one did you want to start with?
I mean, I talked to Mike twice, almost an hour. So like there's just more volume there. I always think Omar says less, but what he says means more. It doesn't, we can go either way.
All right, let's start with Omar then, because I got him right under here. I copied and pasted him first. The QB stuff I thought was interesting. They like to go with 4 quarterbacks. We know that. There's currently only 2 on the roster. Aaron Rodgers would make 3, but that would mean they still need a 4th quarterback in some form or fashion. I know that you said, even on the morning rush, you said this multiple times, but once again reiterated it this morning, that you expect them to draft a quarterback within this draft class. Now, I'm not going to speculate necessarily on where that could be. Could it be as early as in the first round if the board falls a certain way, or all the way with their last pick of the draft, or maybe even a UDFA? I don't know. But what did you take away from what Omar had to say there? Did it surprise you at all?
No, nothing Omar said surprised me, really. But in terms of the quarterback, I did think it was noteworthy that he said, look, we've got to get off this cycle at some point. We've got to find that long-term answer. But that was not connected to any course of action. So, it certainly doesn't make me think they're drafting a quarterback in the first round this year. I do think they will draft a quarterback. Most of the guys they're looking at are day 2 or 3 options. Guys like Will Howard, Quinn Ewers, Tyler Shuck, Nilro and Dart, I think, are probably second-round talents, third-round talents. Where they're going to go, I don't know. But I don't think there's a quarterback in play for the Steelers at 21. But I do think that they will draft a quarterback in this class.
You mentioned the second round. The Steelers not having a second round pick. Talked about potentially reacquiring a second round pick. I thought that was interesting, just in terms of did that give you more thought to, they would really like to trade down from 21, or would it be like a trade of a player moving out for a second round pick, or moving up from the third round, including 26 capital? Any of the above? What was your thought when he said that?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of assumed that they were going to try to get back into at least get another day 2 pick, if not get into the second round. That could be trading back in the first. It could be trading a player. It could be trading a 26 pick, since they do have a lot of comp picks coming to them. I think there's a bunch of different directions they can go, and I think they'll be interested in trying to do that. Doesn't mean it's a sure thing to happen, but I think ideally they would like to find a way to recoup that pick. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that I thought was super interesting, and I was like, I wonder if Omar read Allen's article that he posted on SteelersNow.com. SN Plus, by the way, sign up, no ads. Talking about, how they kind of went about this process. I like the word that you used in the group text. You're hoarding comp picks for 2026, and saying, it was intentional. I mean, Omar kind of even said that certainly was in their mind when they were doing business through free agency. But what did he say kind of that subject when talking about it to you guys?
Well, I thought it was really interesting because I got to find the quote here from Omar, because I was kind of among the first people to really write about what I thought they were doing at comp, in the comp pick realm, and how I saw it as a future solution to their quarterback problem. And not to say I was the first person to talk. It was being discussed on the opening day of free agency pretty widely on Twitter. But I think I was the first person that covers the team that was really in on that idea. And he said, you guys are intelligent people, and you can kind of read through it and see the fact that we've had the opportunity to acquire picks, and I don't know exactly how it's going to shake out yet, but that's obviously been something we've taken into consideration. I was like, oh, we're intelligent people, and it's obvious. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You hear that, good. YouTube comments?
Good for the ego a little bit there. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think it has been obvious. So I'm glad that we've acknowledged the obvious as obvious, and they're trying for it. And it's not something you can just decide you want to do one day. You have to be in the right situation. They're in a weird situation with Dan Moore, and a weird situation with the 2 quarterbacks on expiring contracts, but they're taking advantage of it, and they're in a really good place with the comp picks going forward. But that was interesting to me.
Setting themselves up well with a bunch of capital in 26, which is where we've kind of said we expect that big swing at quarterback. That could certainly be their first round pick. Then their first round pick in 25, we've talked about most likely being defensive tackle. Talked about that, the focus on the trenches that they have. What did he have to say about that position? Maybe a position that a lot of people thought, would they invest more in free agency? Is that a position where we're looking for a double dip? What do you have to say on that spot?
Yeah, surprisingly little. I asked that question, and I was expecting the sort of full-throated, yes, absolutely, we're going to do. I framed the question and said, hey, do you plan on at some point giving defensive line the kind of attention that you've given to the offensive line over the last two drafts. And he just said, the trenches are important. I've always talked about those big guys on both sides of the ball, but like, it wasn't this sort of full-throated, yes, absolutely, we're trying to get that done sort of message. I don't know. I've been pretty solid.
Maybe you would have rather have had Andy Weidel for that answer.
Right? Yeah. I've been like, all right, can we take a total aside here? So obviously Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan are both here at the owners' meetings. And I just have this idea of like Andy Weidel back in Pittsburgh, like sitting in the big chair, just like with Aaron Rodgers' phone number in front of him. Like, I could do the funniest thing right now.
Yeah, it's like he's the kid that got left alone.
Yeah, I can see that. Now Andy would just sign a guard anyway. But yeah, maybe. But I was a little taken aback by that answer. I don't know if that was just some obfuscating of their intentions or if I'm slightly misreading the situation here. I'll try to do some digging while I'm here and see if I can get the right answer to that question, but I'm not sure right now. I was a little surprised by that answer, though.
I want to come back to, you already talked about DK Metcalf a little bit, obviously, because of the thing with Aaron Rodgers, but just the process and how the trade went down, because it had been put out there that the Steelers had called Seattle about DK Metcalf, and obviously the Steelers have called about every receiver that could even remotely be possible. But we didn't really know their level of interest. And then on a Sunday night, as you're walking into final word, we see that the trade was going down. So from the Steelers' perspective, half of that trade, how did he say that, things kind of materialized?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of said it happened pretty quickly within the week. I had heard that the Steelers were kind of blindsided by the Geno Smith trade, that they were not really aware that he was going to be made available until that happened. And I think that was kind of the starting point of them saying, well, hey, what else are you doing over there? And I think that was when, for me, we had talked before about there being rumors that DK Metcalf might be available, but I kind of looked at it as similar to the Ajax situation. Why would they want to let him go, even if he's disgruntled, even if they don't have a deal on a long-term contract extension? He's still a very good player, but I think when you see the Geno Smith trade, it's they're trying to hard reset here. They will trade him. Now it's just a matter of where and for how much. I think that's what really kickstarted this process. And he said it came together very quickly after that. And it was because DK wanted to be in Pittsburgh. And that was, I think that we talked about this a lot, the Calvin Ridley thing, right? How do you attract a quarterback without, or a wide receiver without the quarterback? Didn't matter at all. Was the guy who wanted to come to Pittsburgh, wanted to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, wanted to play with Mike Tomlin, and the quarterback situation did not deter that one bit. So,
I was having a conversation with somebody last Thursday, and it was about the Geno Smith trade, but obviously plays into the DK Metcalf one, where it's obviously not to this magnitude, but in talking to people, it seems like no one in the league knew that was it was like the Luka trade in the NBA, where it's those two teams kind of kept things under wraps. Pete Carroll, obviously in Vegas, called Seattle and was hey, would you trade Geno? And it just so happened that talks weren't progressing there, and they were yeah, you know what, we would. And then, oh, okay, yeah, we'll offer you a third-round pick. The deal. And it was kind of just as quick as that it got done. But you wonder, had other teams known, this is obviously a hypothetical, but if the Steelers would have known that they could have had Geno for a third, do you think they could have even had a mega trade, DK Metcalf and Geno Smith for a second and third?
Is that do you get a combo price? Do you do you get, I don't know. Yeah. Do you get a Diet Coke with them if you make that order? I don't know. I would be in on. I would rather have Geno Smith for a third-round pick than Aaron Rodgers for $25 million, I think.
Mm-hmm. I guess the other part of that is the new contract, for Geno Smith.
Did they give Geno a new contract?
I don't think yet.
So, I don't know.
If they did, I've missed it.
No, I don't think they have. In fact, Pete Carroll today was asked about it and said we're working on it. So that's the part of that one where I'd be fine with Geno Smith as a quarterback in 25 and probably even 26, but I don't want to get crazy about a contract extension. So that could be why that could be a pitfall in that line of thinking.
And one more thing is it relates to money, obviously, here too. The last thing that Omar touched on that I wanted to touch on here was how the Myles Garrett contract could obviously impact TJ Watt, their own star, and just how the edge market has kind of continued to blow up the way that it has.
Yeah, I was fishing there a little bit, trying to get Omar to say something, and struck out.
How'd that go?
Just like most of my real, I'm a very good fisherman. I can't say that, but yeah, not every fishing trip is successful, and that one really wasn't. He just said, I didn't think the salaries were going to go down, and asked him just about the idea of paying $40 million for an edge rusher and whether he thought that was reasonable. And he said, "Look, we're gonna make TJ Watt a Steeler for life." So, yeah. I think you can be pretty sure that's going to happen. Time frame, I don't know, but I think you'd be pretty sure that's going to happen.
Yeah. And from your perspective, there's even fans that obviously want to trade TJ Watt, but for the people that agree that they want to keep him in a Steelers uniform, is there any concern? There's no concern on your end in terms of the amount of time that goes past. We talked about it before. Obviously, the last time that he signed the extension in 21, it went right up into the week before the season.
I think I would like TJ, if I was the Steelers, after the way the 21 season went, I would like TJ Watt to participate in training camp this time around. I'll say that. I don't really think that they need to be rushing now. I don't think it needs to be something that's on their radar right now. But if I was the Steelers, I'd be trying to get into gear a little faster in the summer and try to get TJ Watt in camp a little earlier than it was last time.
All right, switching gears to Mike Tomlin. We already talked about the quarterback stuff from Omar's perspective, but did Tomlin give anything that Omar didn't in terms of taking a look into this draft class?
Yeah, he pretty full-throatedly said, don't rule out anything, even the first-round pick in terms of acquiring a quarterback, although he did not specifically mention a trade, and Omar did, so I think that's interesting. The trade options, we've talked a lot about them, are pretty slim, maybe Joe Milton, maybe Malik Willis, maybe Kirk Cousins, although I don't really buy it. Maybe Brock Purdy, although I really don't buy that. There's just nothing out there. So I appreciate Omar for leaving the door open, but I don't. Maybe Milton. Milton's the one that kind of makes some sense, especially with the Patriots having signed Josh Dobbs, and he seems kind of like an extra piece there. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be a first-round pick, but Tomlin said, hey, don't rule it out, so I guess we'll take him at his word.
And one of the quarterbacks currently on the roster, Mason Rudolph. Obviously, Tomlin, a lot of familiarity with him, but being brought back into the fold, what do you have to say about him?
Apparently, what he had to say was very, very dry, boring, dull, to the point of
gonna live in infamy.
To the point of causing poor Mark Cabali to zone out for a moment. I thought it was a good question. I'm sorry. I just asked him about Rudolph in the end of the 2023 season, and if those games change anything about the way he perceives Rudolph, or maybe just prove true some things that he had already thought about Rudolph. And he kind of said, you go through things with people and you gain that rapport, and you're able to feel like you can lean on them more going forward. I didn't get a chance for a follow-up question in there. The obvious one is, so then why didn't you re-sign him in 2024? I like what they did with the quarterback room. I think Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are both better players. So I don't think they have necessarily to defend themselves, but it is. Can you recall a career trajectory like that one? If Mason Rudolph turns out to be the Steelers' starting quarterback this year, which I don't think is going to happen, but if it does happen, and of course Tomlin was talking about the possibility of that being the case and their faith in his ability to do it, that would have to be a one-of-one career path, right?
Oh, yeah. Obviously, you've seen insane stories of a Kurt Warner and everything like that, but in terms of being drafted in the third round by a team to, obviously the starter, the incumbent starter at the time, not really wanting that to happen, and just kind of the way that Mason was treated, then having to play all of 19 really, but then getting benched for Duck Hodges and kind of going back and forth there, saving the season in 23, not even being brought back, and then being brought back. Like you said, it'd be pretty wild if that was the case, but I also don't expect it to happen. But it's within the realm of possibility. It's one of the possibilities for 2025.
Also, Aaron Rodgers is going to be 42. So, even if they sign him, be ready, Mason.
Very good chance. Very good chance.
Don't give him a flag to carry out on the field for the first game, so we can just avoid mean pictures
Yeah. Mason needs to be ready in 25. A player that sounds like he'll be ready based off what Mike Tomlin said, Cole Holcomb, who I feel like just keeps getting kind of forgotten about when we talk about the off-ball linebackers. Obviously, there's been a little bit of reshaping. Landon Roberts out, and Harrison coming in. But like, what is your thought about Cole Holcomb in 25 and the role that he could play?
Yeah, 2 injury updates actually. Cole Holcomb healthy and Cameron Johnston healthy for the start of training camp. Johnston. Both of those guys. So we actually got some videos of Johnston kicking. He's been posting those on social media, and then Holcomb was healthy last year. And actually, I want to pivot to another player in that situation here next. But like, Holcomb was healthy last year, and they just didn't have the place on the roster for him. Is he going to be great? I don't know. It's hard for me to look at a guy at practice and say, oh, yeah, he's going to be the same player when he gets back. I don't know. I got to see him in a game before I'm willing to say that. But physically, he looks fine. In fact, he looks like he bulked up a little bit. Like his upper body, man, it was like, there was no leg days. So he just did all arm day, I think. Like he looked pretty jacked. And so I think he looks like he's in good shape and pretty ready to go. Will he be the same? Impossible for me to say. But another guy in that situation was Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson was healthy the whole second half of last season. The Steelers just simply chose not to play him, and Mike was asked directly about that. And I thought he gave a really good explanation to say, like, we didn't get the opportunity, whether it was because of someone else's misfortune, like there was no injury in front of him, or poor enough play that someone else was going to lose their job, that they could have put Roman Wilson in that lineup, and they didn't. And I don't think it was because they hate him or because he doesn't know the plays or whatever. It was just about a lack of ability to perform on the field in the offense and do that. And so he said, they're expecting big things from him this year. And he pointed out Calvin Austin. Like, Calvin Austin was actually hurt his entire rookie year. He got hurt in training camp and then aggravated again when he tried to come back in the season. And Calvin Austin, of course, turned out to be just fine. So he doesn't think that like that, the way that played out is any different than if Wilson had actually just been hurt. Like, it's not like he's considering him damaged goods now because they chose not to bring him back after the injury.
This probably is going to be like a stupid question, but if the Steelers add a wide receiver early in the draft, does that, I don't want to say close the book, but how much do you think that would block out Roman Wilson from being able to carve out a role?
Depends on the wide receiver. And I'll say the same thing about if they sign one in free agency. Like right now, the Steelers absolutely need another wide receiver. You have George Pickens and you have DK Metcalf, who are basically both X receivers. We talked with Mike a little bit about the differences between them, which is actually a hilarious quote. I asked about how they both have similar strengths. They're both downfield, deep ball guys. And he said, yeah, but they're different. Like DK is a big man. George is just tall. And like, I thought that was a pretty funny way to say it and talk about how DK is a great blocker. He's a load after the catch. He's much more comfortable working underneath and things like that. And so he can be used in different ways. Fair point. But still, those are their only outside receivers. You still have Roman and Calvin, who are slot guys, and then you have Ben Skoranek, special teamer. You need a backup outside receiver. You will not assume that you're going to be able to go through the season with George Pickens and DK Metcalf at full health. And so they need at least one receiver somewhere. And I think the kind of receiver they sign or draft will tell us a lot about what they feel about Roman Wilson. Because if it's another pure outside guy, then they're like, all right, the slot is Calvin and Roman in some combination. Those guys will figure it out. We're kind of happy no matter how it goes down. But if it's a player like Tyler Lockett, if it's a player like Keenan Allen, who has a significant slot component to their game in the draft, if it's a player like, I don't know, Xavier Restrepo from Miami or Tez Johnson from Oregon, right? Like, then I'd be concerned if I was Roman Wilson about how I'm going to earn something. Man.
If they drafted, not that like Restrepo is some like massive dude, but like especially when you said Tez Johnson there, I was like, oh my goodness, Tez Johnson, Calvin Austin, and Roman Wilson in the same room. That's man.
With George Pickens and DK Metcalf.
Yeah. Exactly. And then just have Washington come stand by the entire group as well. I want to lump kind of all this stuff together because it's about the role stuff, obviously, that Tomlin touched on. Just anything within that group of things, all the things that are on the table at the owners' meetings that he touched on.
Yeah, I talked about his disdain for the idea of a division winner not getting its home playoff game. He said he thinks 18 games is inevitable, although the details will have to be hashed out between the league and the union. Didn't give a real opinion about the tush push, said he feels like player safety will be the thing that drives the conversation. I kind of call BS because nobody's ever been injured doing a tush push, so I'm not quite sure how we're getting there from here, but okay, take him at his word. And also a couple other things have come down that were not what Tomlin was said about rule changes, but Thursday Night Football, you can now flex a game 3 weeks out instead of 4 weeks out. The idea to flex more games, only one game was flexed into Thursday night over the last 2 seasons. That was something that when it came out in 2023, the Steelers were staunchly against. I'll be interested to see what Art Rooney has to say about that tomorrow. And what was the other thing that was rules that just happened?
The kickoff thing that's still going to
be. The kickoff thing is still up in the air. But one of the things that they're talking about is to bring the touchback out further or to move the kicker back. So you have longer touchback to the 35, or move the kicker back so you have fewer touchbacks. That's part of the thing they're trying to decide there.
There we go. All right, a lot of conversation, a lot of topics. We got to get to at least one question because this has been sitting in your DMs from P. Shiner for a couple days now, and I want to make sure that we get to this one. So, hey, Alan, love the afternoon drive. Wanted to give a little bit of a long-winded comment / question. By the way, this took 2 screenshots for Alan to send it to me, so it's certainly long-winded. I'll see how I can break it down. It's become very popular to claim the Steelers are just going to move up next year in the draft to get a quarterback, which sounds great on paper. I think people are missing the significance of the cost. There will be nothing stopping the team at say 7 from increasing the price significantly when it's very obvious the Steelers will be trying to do so. Their lack of even quarterbacks on the roster and desperation has caused them to lose all leverage and no information asymmetry, key aspects of the negotiation. People love this to cite Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar trades. Look at what they had in place. Chiefs at least had Alex Smith under contract. We're a playoff team. Josh Allen was a 5-spot move. So the player you gave up drafting at 7 is more likely similar value, has at least somewhat similar value to the player at 12. And the Ravens had Joe Flacco under contract. All this doesn't even mention we have no idea who's coming out next year, with the best prospects potentially being underclassmen. Moving up is much more complicated than people are acting when your cards are laid out for everyone to see. Respect your opinion on the market more than most, so would love to hear your thoughts on the pod.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's pretty easy to trade up. I think it's much more difficult to trade down. Very rarely does a team badly want to trade up and have a long lead time. Like, it's one thing if, like, you're sitting there at 20, someone you thought was going to get taken at 10 is still there at 15. Now you're like, oh my God, we got to get up to get them. You only have 1 or 2 teams to deal with. When you're looking at, okay, we just need to get into the top 7 or 8 draft picks of the draft. Not only do you have a lot of teams to work with. Like, so it's not that difficult. The Bills did it in a 2-step process. They traded up twice. They originally were supposed to pick somewhere like 21, and then they traded up to 12, and then they traded up again to 7. You can do that. You can trade a team ahead of time. You can get into a trade with a team that you think is going to be bad and swap your first-round pick for theirs and say, look, we think, we're going to bet against you here. You can do that. And so there's lots of, and the other part about this is there are a lot of teams like, okay, the Bears. Are you predicting a breakout season for the Bears? Are you predicting a breakout season for the Patriots? Those are 2 teams with young quarterbacks. Okay. Now look at who's going to draft at the top of this draft. Do you think the Jets are going to break out? The Browns, the Giants, there's like 5 teams that could all be picking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 next year that don't need a quarterback or won't need a quarterback because they'll get one in this year's draft. And so I don't think it'll be that difficult. I really think trading up is fairly easy. I don't think the fact that the Steelers are basically showing their cards here will matter at all. You pay what the market demands, no matter what. I don't like teams are trying to trade down all the time. Trading down is the better long-term play. You want to be the team trading down more often.
Yeah.
That is the smart way to go about it. But sometimes you get yourself in a position where you feel like you have to take an aggressive move. But it's not hard to get teams to want to trade down. The hard thing is the other. The hard thing is you get into a place where there's nobody good on the board, and you're like, we really should trade down here. But everybody else is like, hey, there's nobody good on the board. Why would we want to come up? And so then you're stuck with the pick. That happens a lot. Trading up, especially when we're talking about it's a whole year in advance. Omar's
I had to find it. I found it pretty funny though, as you were sitting there I actually had to cover my mouth for a second from laughing. When you mentioned the Jets within there, because I just think it'd be so hilarious for the Steelers to bet on Justin Fields, who they let walk in free agency, even though he was their preferred option. They didn't want to match what the Jets were offering guaranteed wise. Traded for their first round pick, and then it ended up being very good because Justin Fields wasn't good there. Yeah, but the other thing, so I think, what Shiner was saying here basically is, I fully agree with everything that you said there. You can definitely trade up if you want to trade up. I think his question was more so, or thought was more so, paying a higher price for doing so when it is so out on the table. But to your point, it's if there's only one team, I guess, that was looking to move out, but that's not going to be the case. So
and you don't have to get to a specific spot. You just need to get into a range. You don't need the number one pick. Like this year, if you want to get a quarterback, you need the number one pick. Next year, you're not going to need that. And yeah, certainly there's no guarantee that there's 6 quarterbacks I've talked a lot about at the top of the draft class. Klubnik, Aller, Manning, Iamaliava,
Manning, Sellers might not even be part of it. Yeah.
Right. Sure. Those guys may not all be the part of it, but there's another half a dozen really talented guys that could play their way into that conversation as well. You're only looking at it from the what if bad situation. You're ignoring the what if good. What if all 6 of those guys go out there and really good, and then Connor Wegman finally lives up to his potential, and Carson Beck, it was all just his girlfriend getting in his head, and now he's going to be great. Now that he's broken up with her, right?
At school where Cam Ward turned himself into the first overall pick.
Yeah, right. Sure, bad. The class could get worse, but it could get better too. I think people live in their fears about the future so often, and it's almost always bad analysis. I was actually just talking about this with the Slay thing. We talked about it very recently. There's no reason to prefer a long-term deal to a short-term deal unless you're just afraid of having to make a decision again. And trust me, the Steelers are not afraid of that. So you just pick the best corner you can get. And they Slay the best. And also the compact thing. But yeah, there's no reason to sit there. Of all of the years, there's no reason to look at the 26th class and go, hey, it might not happen. It'll happen.
Yeah. But what I was thinking about as you were talking there too, the previous year, Cam Ward, who's going to likely go number 1 overall here in a month, was considered a third round, fourth round pick, when he was transferring from Houston. Now he's doing 1 overall in a month.
Wazoo, not Houston, but yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Why did I think Houston? Wazoo. But anyways, Alan, good stuff. Before we get out here, tell the people they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. I've been slacking on the TikTok and Blue Sky. I get better at posting there. PGH Steelers Now sites account, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the words, sign up for SN Plus so that you can just pay me directly so I can come to do more cool things like be at the owners' meetings here in Palm Beach. And the pro days we were at, and the combine, and the Senior Bowl, all that takes cash, and we need it, and we could get it from the ad companies, but then your experience on the website is worse. So just sign up for SN Plus. We get the money. You don't have to watch the ads. Everybody wins. It's great. Also, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications on the YouTube channel, which is free, and is also better for us and better for you, because then you don't miss an episode of Steelers Morning Rush, Steelers Afternoon Drive, all the video content I've got coming out from the owners' meetings, and all the video content. I still have stuff from the Senior Bowl I haven't posted. That'll be coming out over the next month as we lead up to the draft. And, you don't miss any of it. And that way you don't have to look at fake things on Facebook and ask your friends, is this real? No, it's not real because Alan and Smitty didn't talk about it, and you watch all the episodes. There you go.
Oh, how about my mom's friend texted her last night and was like, what the hell? And we were like, she probably saw something fake on Facebook. Lo and behold, there was something about him being traded to the Tennessee Titans because he wasn't happy about how things were going with the quarterback situation.
Are they at least getting the number 1 pick in this fake trade?
Maybe. Maybe, I don't know. That part, that wasn't a part of it. Also, the reason I thought it, listen to these options that were on this thing that I had read. This was from when Cam Ward was transferring to Miami. These were the schools that were listed. Oregon, with Bo Nix leaving, Nebraska, Houston, UCLA, and Ohio State. Miami wasn't even on there.
There you go.
Miami wasn't even on there. He went to Miami. But anyways, that's where I got that from. Did you say
15,400 and Artie Burns?
Oh, all right.
Subscribers. Keep that number going up, man. Keep that number going up.
I mean, the easy one here is Sean Elliott. Who else wore 25 for the Steelers? Man, who wore 25 before Artie?
Keller Witherspoon. No, he was after Artie. Before Artie, Ryan Clark.
Was that the only one before? There wasn't somebody in between? Like, I was trying to think of somebody obscure.
There might have been somebody obscure.
No, I love Deshaun. I'll just stick with Deshaun. I know that's boring.
You want obscure? Desmond King wore it last year.
Oh,
23.
That's the one. That's who I should have said. Son of
for one game and one snap in which he gave up a touchdown.
One touchdown. All right, there we go. So continue to subscribe, leave us a comment, hit us with a question or a topic that you would like discussed on here as we work our way through the offseason. Like I said, just less than a month until the NFL draft. So a lot of things to talk about, but please keep those questions coming. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there. I love reading those too. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do that for us. Search the same thing on TikTok, and then you'll find me everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders and myself. Thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.